Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Michael Toscano.
And this is Collateral Gaming. Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from Houston, Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast, so whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it. Welcome to our season finale, or part one of our season finale, I should say, and joining me today is Mr. Michael Toscano. How's it going, man?
It's going well, Ashley. How you doing?
Great, bro. I am so excited to talk about this game. Ever since it came out last year, I've wanted nothing more than to really dive deep into this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game, so I'm excited to be on this episode with you.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I got to say, yeah, Clair, Obscur Expedition 33. Okay, so it just dropped last year. And this game completely blew me away. This was my personal game of the year. And I did do a spoiler-free review on it, or half of a spoiler-free review on it last year around the time it came out, where we covered both that and the 100-Line Last Defense Academy. But ever since back then, I was like, no, we have to find a way to revisit this game. And yeah, here for our season finale, we're going to go ahead and do that. So here during part one, I think we'll focus a little bit more on the gameplay, and then in part two, we'll dive deeper into the story. But Michael, since you're joining us as a guest this time around, go ahead and let your audience know, what your experiences with this game and just your overall thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I actually found this game because of you when you had originally posted that you were doing your initial playthrough, and I saw that post on Facebook, and I remember messaging you asking if it was worth it. And you said at the time that it was good, and that, if you like turn-based games, that would be, something that you might be into. Me personally, I haven't really played a lot of turn-based games in probably since childhood. And so as far as recent years, this would have been my first turn-based game going into it, and I really didn't know what to expect. I think the last turn-based game I played was Final Fantasy 13. And so initially, I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it as much, especially coming off of Elden Ring at the time, where that was my main game. But I have to say I was completely wrong. The combat was fantastic. It's immersive, and like you said, this was definitely my game of the year as well.
Fuck yeah, man. Yeah, I feel like this is a game that transcends genre. This is something that I've heard from multiple people who are not even fans of turn-based RPGs or don't have as much of an experience with that like you, who were immediately immersed into this game and fell in love with it. I think a big part of that is, the quick time event mechanics, the parry and dodge mechanics, which is not something that's never been done before in a turn-based RPG. Much like Legend of Dragoon, which I haven't played, and some of the Mario RPGs. But I think what this game also does that I think is going to be really appealing, especially to fans of Elden Ring or Souls-likes, is it does kind of have that quality to it. And the way that this game does its turn-based combat, you don't necessarily have to grind to beat any enemy. You can get through by skill alone. So they have these, optional super bosses that are placed throughout the levels and or optional bosses. And if you're willing to persevere through the challenge and just get good, you can beat these guys as soon as you come across them with little to no grinding.
And that's right. There was that, and we'll get more into it, I guess, when we talk about the story. But there was that one boss that comes out of the water that I was very underleveled when I first came across it. And I remember I got the parry timing down pretty well, and I was fighting that thing for almost an hour and barely chipped away like a tenth of its health.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. If you sit there through it, you can beat pretty much any boss just by mastering the movements and the parry mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely. Sprong, I think that's the name of the boss you're talking about. Yeah, he's one of the ones that I will say is somewhat of an exception. The exception to that rule is that, and it's not a hard exception, it can be done, but before you get to the end of Act 2 and unlock Painted Power, your damage caps out at 9999. So some of these bosses are just going to be sponges, and it's probably not going to be a good time just chipping away at their health little by little by little.
Right. And I found that out the hard way, and I came back after Act 2 and took care of that.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like it's a game that's very accessible in that way, and that, if you really are just that good at the parry mechanics, you can power your way through this game. And also your Lumina setups. I think that's this game's kind of big system that it uses. And I know a lot of people were confused at first by the Pictos and Lumina system and didn't really even take advantage of it for quite some time.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that didn't even know what a Lumina was until they beat the game. Yeah. And that's surprising.
It's a lot simpler than it seems. I think when the game puts you through the tutorial, it seems more complicated than it is. But, you have these pieces of equipment that you can put onto any character called Pictos, each which come with an ability and a passive stat boost. So while you're wearing it, you get the stat boost and some extra ability that you can use, or a passive effect of some kind. But those Pictos, after you've worn one or equipped one and battled 4 times, you actually learn that Pictos, and you can apply the ability to any other character. And so that's where that whole system comes into play. And so it really just becomes a matter of finding your play style and equipping the Pictos and Lumina that complement that. And like, this has led to people being able to just build absolutely broken builds in this game.
No kidding, man. And I really do like the way that they have that set up, because with the Pictos, how you get the ability, but then you get the passive stat bonuses, that allows you to put some variation between your team on what member of that team is going to get health, which one is going to get crit, things like that. Mm-hmm. And you do that based off the Picto system, but that doesn't limit your ability to put the different actual abilities on each character.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll also be pouring attribute points into each character to kind of level out their build, which the main point of that is actually so that you can scale with your weapons, and certain weapons are going to scale with different attribute levels and deal more damage. And so and as you get better weapons in the game, these are all going to come with different passive effects and abilities that are going to complement a certain play style. And so it's really fun to be able to mix and match that with the Pictos and Lumina, and kind of just build all these characters. And I find myself constantly reconfiguring my characters all the time. Every time I pick up a new Pictos, I always equip it right away. Even if I don't think I'll use it, I just go ahead and equip it so that I can master it.
Right, because learning that Lumina is going to definitely come in handy later on in the game at some point.
Right,
and there's just so many. There's just so many that if you don't equip it right when you get it, you're going to find yourself, when you need to level up and learn a bunch of Pictos all at once, it's going to be tedious. So definitely best way to do it is just put it on as soon as you get it and get that mastery.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's even some ones that seem like, okay, auto death. So my character just dies right away. Okay. But then there's other Pictos and Lumina that you could pair with that okay, upon death you can upon death or resurrection you can get certain boosts and effects to either that character or the allies. And I think there's even one that actually will auto revive you. So there's all sorts of builds that you could make with this, and these come in handy, especially once you get to those more difficult fights. There's one that I haven't fought yet, actually, because I've played through the game once. but I haven't finished all the post-game content. Now I'm playing through it again, and I'm midway through Act 2. But I still have not completed the post-game content, including, is it Simon or Simone?
Simon. And Simon is, he's, I would say probably the hardest boss in the game DLC, or what I guess what they would consider that DLC after the Game of the Year awards. But yeah, definitely the hardest boss pre-DLC.
Yeah, I heard that he is a bitch, and he is somebody that you could easily pump 100 hours just trying to fight. And there are some cheese builds, and I know that some people, basically at the end of the day, that's what they had to resort to, is just cheese builds, because there was no other way to do it.
Yeah, I had to get the one-shot build together to beat Simon, because, if you try to fight him the legit way, he is a definite skill check. You have to have the parry mechanic to a T, because he will one-hit you, and he will wipe your team if you let him get far enough down the health bar. And so, it's definitely something where you can't rely on just overpowering or overleveling your characters, putting good, lumina together. It's not something that you can rely on that. You need the skill to beat Simon. He's not beatable without the parry mechanics.
Wow, absolutely insane. It's basically the only thing that you could do is essentially just figure out how to build your character in such a way that you can one-shot him. Of course, you've got Michel the goat for that. She was my one-shotter for quite a bit of the game.
Right, with Standall.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, she gets so overpowered, especially once she gets all the post game abilities. But even before that, I mean, there's builds, and I was going online and I was finding builds for these characters, and I was building towards them. And for me, that was kind of like my own checklist. Like, okay, I'm trying to put together this specific build that the internet recommended, and then once I get to try it out, it's like, okay, no, I see why they made this. And so you could have like Michel into this just total like one shot, kill, and just keeping her in Virtuoso constantly if possible. Luna is cool because she's both like a mage and a healer, so you can kind of build her either way or a little bit of both. But one fun build that I came across that you can do early build relies on Trebuchem, which lets you generate random stains, which is part of her gameplay mechanic. And so you can actually, the whole point of the build is actually being able to pull off Mayhem and Elemental Genesis consistently.
Yeah, and she's definitely one of the more complicated builds, compared to like Verso or Michel, where you have to actually learn her entire play style and get good at that. A CL too, but definitely Lune with the stains, and you can actually build incredible one-shot builds with her too, or even just tankiness and getting clearing. She can do pretty much all of it, and then adding on that she can heal too, because that's what I used her for primarily through the initial gameplay, was for healing, until I found out how much damage she can deal when you learn how to use those stains correctly.
Yeah, it's insane. She's both essentially a DPS and a healer character, or can be played either way, just depending on how you build her and what skills you equip, which is cool. But of course, Michel, that's going to be your big DPS. I say DPS. It's not DPS because it's turn-based, but
we know what you mean. She's definitely the damage dealer.
Yeah. And CL, that was one I think that took me a while to figure out how her mechanic worked, but then I was like, oh, okay. So you're just trying to use Sun and Moon skills, apply and consume Foretell, and then put her in Twilight where she can deal the most damage. And so there's ways of building toward that.
And CL is, the people who do the serious end game. She is considered probably better than Michel in terms of overall damage capability, if you can learn to use the Foretell correctly. Because and I haven't mastered this myself, so I don't know all the the ins and outs of it, but she can stack Foretell up to thousands of times, thousands of stacks.
Wow.
And you got people hitting into the billions with her.
That's insane. I mean, once the damage cap is removed, I mean, this game is just can go absolutely balls. But I remember, I think it was you that I was talking to, and I asked you who your favorite character was, and I think it was you that said Gustav.
And that was very unfortunate to pick as a favorite character from the beginning.
I remember asking, I remember you answering that, and I was like, oh,
He's not going to have a good time after Act 1.
But Gustav is a fun character to have while you have him. He's kind of your more like balanced character, which kind of lends to his status as the false protagonist, I guess, because he does feel like a lead character in terms of both character and gameplay. But
right, and when you start with him, and then you start with him in the prologue, and then you start with him when you actually get to the island, and you have that big cut scene. He's the first character you play as. Yeah. It kind of hints that he's going to be the primary protagonist throughout the game, and then just to find out, nope, that's not the case. It's a huge plot twist.
Yeah, what a gut punch, man. I still can't get through that cutscene without tearing up. That and the opening cutscene.
And then not even just the story, but even just gameplay wise, I was investing all of my points and stuff into Gustav, and which that carries over to Verso, so they're not exactly wasted. But I'm thinking here, oh yeah, I'm building up this character. This is going to be my main character that I'm going to be using for gameplay, damage, things like that. Come to find out, that's not the case.
Yeah. But some of his stuff carries over to Verso, but Verso is a whole different character that plays differently. His gameplay style is essentially just building up your ranks so that you can deal more damage, and different abilities that he has actually have different boosts based on which.
And Verso it's extremely important that you're good at the parry and dodging if you want to use Verso as your main character, or even just keep him in your primary team, because that rank is so important. You can get that rank maxed out, but you take one hit from a boss, and you're now there goes half your damage.
Yeah. Exactly. So he's kind of like a risk reward system type character who, you really want to have those parries or dodges down with him.
But the reward is worth it when you get him to S rank. Yeah. He does some serious damage, and he has some great moves.
I like that one move. I think it's like Steel Strike or something. That it's kind of like a samurai move where like he has to build it for one turn before he can do it. But it's like super high damage multiple times. It's awesome. And there are just so many different fun abilities that are just fun to stack onto each character. Like, okay, I'm going to use this skill and see what this does. Wow, this is really interesting. And then, of course, the final character we have is Minoko, who I think is the most interesting party member to join, because his ability revolves around him being able to transform into different Nevrons, but he kind of becomes a really good support character.
Yeah, and I didn't play it in my first playthrough. I didn't play with him that much. I left him in my backup team because you have to collect all the feet and you have to do all those things. But in the NG pluses, he's definitely a great character to have in the primary team with so much versatility.
Yeah, and he's that character that can use the enemy skills, which is something we've seen in JRPGs before. So I actually had pretty much almost always kept him in the party once I got him, especially once I got to a new area and there were new enemies, because I never wanted to miss out on getting a new ability for him.
Yeah, you don't want to end up like me. I got to the end game and I had just his basic abilities. I had to run through the tower to get most of his abilities unlocked.
Yeah, and I think some of them are missable. Like you only have a few opportunities that you might fight against this character. So, he's good to keep at the party, but definitely can be underutilized, basically because you spent so much of the game investing into the others.
Right.
But yeah, they're all cool. And what I liked about this game is that I didn't find myself favoring just one party setup, but I was constantly changing my party members out, not only to spread the experience around and make sure everybody was leveled at around the same level, but also just because I had fun trying out each of these different characters and getting to switch to them and play their builds.
Yeah, and it like you said, it's there's just so much that you can do with the builds and the Lumina and the different characters that when you swap them out in and out of the main party, the second party, maybe determine who's going to go first in the order, you can find a lot of different combinations that work for different types of enemies.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that there's kind of this synergy between the characters. So, like early on, you'll have these setups to where you'll have Gustave, or especially Lune, set up enemies to put Miel into Virtuoso stance, because you've got to light the enemy on fire, and then she's got to use the move against them to switch into Virtuoso so you could deal the most damage. So yeah, there's just kind of this like synergy, and then you'll have almost every character has the ability to mark enemies. I pretty much just put marking shots on everybody too, so they can do that with their shots. But the marks are so important for boosting damage for other characters too. So it was really cool, seeing how well these characters play, not only by themselves but together.
Yeah, and then you also have the different characters that can provide different buffs, like CL, who can boost Miles' damage, and Verso has buffing for defense as well.
Yeah.
So different, like you said, they synergize really well depending on, no matter who you have in the party, there's a way for you to have everyone work together and not just, spam attacks. You have to kind of put a strategy implement into it when you're going against different enemies, different bosses, especially, where you have to plan out your turns. And I think that's really where, like I said earlier, I wasn't really looking forward to the turn base until I started playing it, because it's so important to plan out not just what am I doing on this turn, but even so far as like 5 or 6 turns ahead, what am I going to be doing for each character?
Yes, yeah, it really does allow you to just kind of strategize these fights, especially these longer boss fights that you'll get to. And, you'll get to a point in the game where you're like, I feel like this is pretty easy. I'm wiping most of these enemies out. But then you'll come across a boss that will humble you.
Definitely.
Like all the time. I know for me, actually, I struggled actually in the late game for this, because I had overleveled my characters too much, because I went to Frozen Hearts before I finished Act 2. And I gotta say, that was a tough time. That definitely challenged me, but it also boosted my characters several levels over, that by the time I got to the final fight against Renoir and then finally against either Miel or Verso, I was just so over leveled that they were jokes. But I'm kind of used to that with RPGs in particular. Just having characters that are over leveled, and having that last battle not be a difficult one, but a cinematic one.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you have to balance it between, pushing through the main story and then the exploration. Because like this game and a lot of other RPG games that have come out recently, there's a heavy aspect on exploration through the world, not just in, each individual zone, but also in the world map as well. When you're exploring around there, there's a lot of things that you can unlock early that can make you overpowered. So if you go too far exploring, then you're going to be over leveled for the main story. But then if you do the opposite, if you go just through the main story and you didn't explore at all, you're going to get your ass kicked. And so you got to find that balance of do a little bit of exploration, go back to the story, kind of go back and forth. That way you get that, cinematic ending where you don't just one shot the final boss, but you're also able to still overcome the challenges too.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the main thing is that, yes, explore what's available to you, but usually it'll tell you if an area is like, it'll say like danger or something when you're going into an area.
Yeah, it has the red portal.
Yeah. So you'll know, okay, this is an area that's a little bit more difficult that I'm not intended to go to yet. Or, you'll just come across enemies that'll humble you. So, there are some handrails in place that's like, okay, if you go and explore through this area and overcome it, you'll probably come out over leveled. But I feel like if you just kind of access what's immediately accessible to you and doable, don't spend too much time in one area just grinding, but just fight the enemies you come across. I think it's pretty organic, and the challenge sticks.
Yeah, I think I got my first real, skill check when I got to Lamp Master right before the end of Act 1.
Oh, yeah.
And that was where I first realized, okay, yeah, I can't just push through these enemies anymore. Because up to that point, that's really what I was doing. You get the parry and dodging down, and you can pretty much just plow through most up to that point. And then Lamp Master it was a fun boss. But it was my first real challenge, I would say, throughout the game.
Yeah, I remember Lamp Master being particularly difficult. But in contrast, by the time I got to Duel East the first time around, I actually felt that I was more than adequately prepared for him, which is such a badass fucking cinematic fight. But it was actually...
He's my favorite.
Yeah.
By far, he's my favorite boss in the game.
Yeah, he is so good. But my characters were actually pretty high level by that point, so he wasn't too difficult. But his movement patterns were really erratic and were difficult to learn and parry.
Yeah, they were, especially when he, because he has the dual swords, and so
Yeah.
he swipes one time, you think, okay, that's the attack, and then another one follows right after, and so, and then they mix in with the jumping mechanics and dodging those, and you get a great fight. You get a great fight out of Duelist, and the first time you fight him is definitely the best. He comes around several times throughout the game, but the first time it's a cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, some of these fight scenes. I remember when you get to Serene and you fight the boss there. That little opening cinematic before that boss battle really wowed me, where they're all just kind of like staring at these like illusions.
Yeah,
I should say.
Definitely.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. That's one thing I got to say about this game, and I think that's one thing across the board that everybody can praise it on, is just how good this game fucking looks, how good it sounds like. And in terms of presentation, this is just top notch. I mean, as soon as I got in Lumiere, I was like, wow.
Yeah, and I think, of course, the music has a lot to do with that, but I think even just right down to the basics, sound effects, voices from the characters, all of it provides an overall great experience as far as that, the level design, how it looks visually, how each zone is different visually. I think that was handled extremely well by the developers.
And the art direction, yes. Oh my God, wow, yeah.
Beautiful.
It's such an interesting world that you want to know more about, and the game does such a good job of making these setting and these characters so interesting. The performances are honestly top notch. I mean, you've got Charlie Cox from Daredevil. He's fucking awesome, and all the other voice cast members as well. Ben Starr, remember him from Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, the voice performances were fantastic. I think I think a lot of people share the sentiment. This was probably one of the only games where it brought me to tears within the first hour.
Same.
Or even the first 30 minutes, just that prologue opening. And, that's where I was hooked, even before I even got to the main story. Right after that prologue, I was like, okay, this game brought me to tears. This is a fantastic game coming up.
Yeah, if that doesn't hook you, I don't know what will. But I've seen it happen to almost everybody I've asked to play this game. It's like, for me, as soon as I got into that first tutorial battle, and I hear the tutorial battle music that they never use again. That's such a good rendition of the title screen music. I was already sold. I was like, wow. And as I get more, intrigued by this mystery and trying to figure out the setting and like what's happening to these characters, which they do a really good job of show don't tell, of just giving you little pieces of information and then building up to that one scene that always makes me fucking cry every time. Like a goddamn baby.
Yeah, you got to be soulless not to want to play the game after that,
For real.
But it's just so immersive. It made me feel, so immersed into the game that I didn't want to put it down. Once I started playing it, I remember the first time I finished downloading it and launched the game, I was just going to work, or I was about to go to work, and I was like, I'll just, play through the tutorial, things like that. And I actually called out the first couple hours of my shift because, I can't put this down right now.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I went into work late. I was like, there's no way I'm putting this game down right now. So I think I made it through a little bit of Act 1 and ended up going to work. But as I didn't want to stop playing. It's just that good.
It is that good, dude. It consistently is that good throughout the entire game. I just could not wait to get to a new area and follow the story a little bit further and just kind of piece some of this shit together, but also just having an absolute blast while doing it and building and setting my characters up along the way. This game appeals to me on many levels. It's a lot of what I really love about a lot of different types of games.
Yeah, and what I like about the worlds, the actual level design is it's linear to an extent, but gives you a little bit of freedom on certain pathways. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ladders, what are those hand holding things on the cliffs?
Yeah. Yeah, the
and
little things that you can
ropes and the
climb.
grapple points where there's a lot of hidden things that you can miss if you want to play it in a linear play style. And so coming off of Elden Ring, where I was like, okay, you got to explore every corner, it was nice to see that the exploration pays off in every single level.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Yeah, if you just spend some time going around, and you can usually come back to levels, but there is some missable stuff, so it's worth it to just kind of check everything out, and you'll even get more, enriched in the lore of the game as you find journals from previous expeditions, and also just seeing more of the world and more of the enemies, and it's so awesome. And there is plenty to do. I mean, they have a decent amount of collectibles, but it doesn't become a collectathon. It's more so, it's basically collecting all the expedition journals. Maybe getting all the Pictos and Lumina. If you're someone that wants to 100% this game, and it's got a new game plus, so you can keep moving, up and up and up. And I think there's even a setting that basically lets the enemies just scale with you infinitely, right?
Yeah, I think there is now. They added that in an update. It wasn't there at launch, but they did add that where you can adjust the gameplay for scaling and health and damage and things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, but I mean, yeah, I've heard that there are some battles that just get absurdly long and high levels of health because of that.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you want to put the enemies on max health and then put you on limited damage. There's a lot of challenge runs that go out there. You see them on YouTube.
Yeah.
Beat X amount of bosses, damage capped here, health multiplier on this, and it gives you that freedom to, if it's too easy for you, make it harder. If it's too hard, you make it easier, and so you get to really play where you feel comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Or uncomfortable, if that's what you want. If you're looking for a challenge, you can make it extremely uncomfortable and, time consuming to do certain things. And I love that about this.
Yeah, it's a very, very replayable game. It has a really, really high replay value. Aside from the just absolutely massive amount of content that awaits for you in the post game.
What hurts more are the memories unmade. The conversations we'll never have. The time we'll never spend.
We exist for as long as she wants.
The Paintress and Nohra, they will pay.
Break the cycle! It will only destroy the last tie you have to each other.
There's so many questions left to answer.
Look around. He just wants you to fly. Time for the greatest expedition in history. Let's celebrate.
And speaking on replayability, what made the NG pluses worth it is they were required to get, if you really wanted to max out the builds and max out the Pictos, to get the level 33 Pictos, some level 33 weapons, you had to go through NG Plus. So you had to replay it. And I think that was a great move that adds that value to, not just beating it the first time and putting it down. If you want to be a completionist, you have to go through multiple playthroughs. And I think that was great because I certainly did it. I went through 4 or 5 playthroughs on this game, just trying to get everything, all the weapons, all the skills maxed out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is definitely a game that not only encourages that, but actually needs it, because I think that there are some resources in this game that are finite, that you only get a certain number of. So if you do want to max out everything, that's going to be the only way to do it. But I found myself wanting to pick up every single weapon that I came across, and pick up every single Pictos and equip it that I came across. Even if I didn't feel like I was going to necessarily use everything, I always wanted to pick it up and expand that collection.
Yep, and same thing with the outfits and everything there. Every time I saw a shop, I bought it out.
Same.
Even if it was something I didn't think I was going to need, come across a vendor, whether it be on the world map or in any of the level designs. I'm like, okay, I'm buying everything here. Do I need it? Probably not. Am I going to use it? Maybe, but I'm buying it anyway because I'm going to make sure I have everything I need just in case that comes up.
Same here. I always buy out vendors whenever possible, and it's often worth it to do so. You'll actually get a little bit of a boost, and it can help with some of those more challenging fights that you've got to come across. But even just like you mentioned, the cosmetics. I loved getting new hairstyles and costumes. I almost always stuck with the lore accurate look, like 90% of the time. But I still loved collecting all of the costumes and hairstyles and stuff. I'm like, well, this will be good in New Game Plus.
Some of them were pretty out there, like the ability to make all the female characters bald. You know? But a lot of people do it. You see, you look in the communities, you see screenshots, videos. People are going with some pretty crazy designs, and it's cool to have that freedom to express your characters how you want. Whether I might not want my female characters bald, but maybe someone else does. But it's there for you, and so being able to collect those, and I like that they're collectible throughout the entire game. It's not where it's like all the good items are locked at the end of the story or at the end of the game in end game areas. There's a lot of things that you could find just on the map, without even having to go through hard bosses, hard levels or anything. You can find things that are accessible throughout the entire game for you.
Or even, just going to the Gestural Beach and playing some mini games. You're always guaranteed beachwear.
We don't talk about the Gestural Beach anymore. No. Dude. The amount of times I fell to my death playing those mini games or the volleyball one.
Oh my God.
That volleyball one, it was a cheater, man. But they were fun. It was a good addition to maybe you're grinding or farming or pushing a lot of hours into the main story, and you just want to switch it up a bit. You go through the Gestural Beach and just play a lot of mini games, have some fun with it, get some cool items from there. So yeah, definitely.
I had very little patience for the Gestural Beach minigames, such that I haven't completed very many of them because it's like I'll get all the way through a parkour course and I'll be like, okay, I'm almost there, and then I'll fall in the water. I'm like, nope, I'm done.
And then a lot of the platforming was a little bit finicky too, where you would end up on, you'd jump onto the platform correctly, but then your character would either hit an invisible wall or the missed pixels, and then you would still fall anyway. And I think a lot of that was patched out over the months from launch, but it was a lot of people do have problems and struggles with the platforming, and it's funny to see all the different types of ways that people get all the way to the top or all the way to the end of a platforming level and then just have to start all over.
Yeah.
It's like professional rage bait.
The platforming can be a little bit awkward at times, but yeah, I do think some of it is definitely very intentional rage bait. Well, I mean, at least insofar as the Gestural Beach stuff goes.
Right.
But yeah, man, this game will soak up so much of your time. You'll be wandering around the world map and checking out different places and not have even progressed the story at all and have lost several hours.
Yeah, I mean, and especially for the completionists, you want to make sure that you're checking every corner, checking every island. There's a lot of stuff that, you go and you find an island and there's nothing there. You're like, oh, well, shit. But then you go to another island right next to it and you have either a secret boss or you have different items that are hidden, or even like those the mansion doors were hidden throughout the map. And it's cool to find those, whether you're finding it where you're searching for it or if you just find it on accident. It's good to come across different things like that.
Yeah. Or the White Neverons, which, always have a side quest attached to them.
And I got spoiled on that from the Facebook community, so I knew not to kill them.
Yeah.
But for the people that didn't, and then you can't platinum, you can't. You got to go back through another NG plus. It's a pretty cool thing that they added in there, where you have your enemy, but you're not supposed to kill it.
Well, I'm like, why would you kill it when it gives you an option not to? And you talked to that Neveron, and he was cool as shit, and you helped him with something. Like, why am I gonna go and kill this thing now? For the XP, right?
For the XP.
Yeah. No, actually, yeah. The general strategy that I've seen pushed a lot is to do all of the white Nevrons, get that achievement or trophy, and then once you've gotten it, you can go back and you can kill all of them for the XP.
Yeah,
monster.
I didn't go back and kill them personally, but I know a lot of people that did just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
But but also there's just like the trained RPG mindset is sometimes if you kill a character you get an extra reward even if they already rewarded you with something else, and so sometimes people just get curious and try to see what they can get out of it.
Yeah, that is RPG logic, like you mentioned. Just maxing your rewards. Well, if I get the reward and I kill it, but yeah, no, and I just enjoyed not only how much there was to do all the time and how well the game breaks up its pace, but yeah, how consistently the game still would prove a challenge to me. Not just if I went out of my way to fight some optional boss, but even just at points during the story. I would get humbled and I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I think a prime example of that is when you fight Renoir for the first time in front of the mansion.
Oh, yeah.
And his attacks, his patterns, and the things that you have to do as far as like mechanically, it's just completely different from anything that you've already faced before with the other bosses. And so, he's like one of the first, if not the first, I believe, humanoid boss that you fight. That's not a Nevron. And so it's just a completely different experience. And that was the challenge for me. I think I spent several hours trying to beat him in front of that mansion for the first time, just because the skills that you need, you're not introduced to until you fight him.
Yeah. No, and also he has an ability to just vanish any one of your party members from the rest of the fight.
Bullshit. Cheap shot, man.
I know. No revives. Fuck you.
Because up until that point, I was just, you get unlimited heals with Lune as long as you have your AP.
Yeah.
And then you get revive tints that you can just buy. And so it's like, okay, if I'm having some trouble with this boss, heals and revives. And then here comes Renoir. Nope, fuck you. You're out. And team wipe. Not as bad as Simon, but still.
There's one other type of Nevron, one of those big, huge ones that can swallow your party members for the fight. But I think if you break them, they do spit them out.
Yeah, they spit them back out. Yeah, you have to get the break bar all the way filled up. Which sometimes if you're down to one party member, that is really hard to do between trying to do attacks that break, but also heal or buff your own character on one turn.
Yeah,
especially early on in the levels.
Well, and the game continues to introduce new mechanics, through at least halfway through the game, before you even get to stuff like gradient counters and then gradient attacks. It's like, oh, no, you're still throwing new mechanics at me to use.
Yeah, and speaking of the gradient counter and the gradient attacks, I thought, when you're that far into the story, you think there's nothing left for you to learn. Like, this is it. I know all that there is. And then they just throw that out there. Oh, by the way, starting now, all your enemies are going to have this, where you need to do a specific mechanic to either not just either survive, but to actually win the fight. In some cases, you have to master those gradients.
Yeah, because the usually the attacks that you have to gradient counter are attacks that will usually one-shot characters. But if you pull off the counter, you'll one-shot them instead. And so at first it was like, oh my God, so I can dodge or parry. Sometimes I have to jump instead, and you're going to add something else, but it's actually like super telegraphed. Like the enemy slows down, and there's a whole visual indicator and everything, and it's just
even an
the
audio
timing.
indicator too. If you're listening to the audio, you can know exactly when to put those counters. And it's definitely something that, like you said, they one-shot you or you one-shot them, so you have to master it. You have to be good at it, or else you're just, no matter how good you are at everything else, you're not going to win that fight.
And there are several boss fights that are that way, with just like you mentioned before, or even just their regular attacks when you're fighting Simon and even other bosses. The only way to get through that fight is to learn how to parry all of their attacks. So it just becomes trial and error. It's like and something about this game gives me the patience to want to keep trying and going after that boss and just pull it off perfectly. And like I'll even just reload a fight if I don't pull it off perfectly, like during the first couple turns.
Yeah, when you know, like you already like, okay, this isn't going well. I don't think I'm going to make that through. Just wipe and retry. And I do think that is one thing that as far as just like quality of life for the game was something that was good that they implemented, was just the retry battle versus making you go back to a checkpoint, run all the way back. Sometimes that's a distance too, and you have to fight more enemies just to get back to that boss. Those kinds of things make me not want to keep trying. Yeah. But when you have a simple just retry battle button, okay, I'm going to keep doing this until I win.
Exactly. That's one thing that Souls likes especially, double down on, is the whole requiring you to progress through entire sections of the game. And there's a point where I'm just like, nah, I do not have the patience for this. The only part of the game I know that you can't retry the battle is actually that first fight against Renoir in front of the mansion. It starts you at the checkpoint,
yeah.
But the reason it does that is because your party doesn't join you until mid cutscene. So they actually inserted a checkpoint so that you can at least swap out your party members if you want to or whatever.
Now, I want to know though, Ashley, we're talking about everything that we like about the game. Things are doing good. What are some things that you didn't like about this as far as like the gameplay?
I mean, any part of the game that requires me to get through to do platforming is kind of silly. I mean, the gestural beaches are one thing, that's optional content, but yeah, when I'm just having to do platforming and it's very awkward just to grab an item over there, that would kind of turn me off. Really just a minor nitpick.
Yeah, nothing crazy there. I mean, I'm a fan of platforming. I love it, but there is, extents where it's like, okay, this is just getting ridiculous. There's a lot of, and then I think what a lot of the things that I was coming across throughout the levels were things that you could see in the distance, and you're like, there has to be a way to get there, but you can't find it. And then it come to find out later in the game, you couldn't access it because there's different required abilities you need to get to certain points of even early levels. Like the ability to break those rocks and get to different parts of the mission that you couldn't have accessed when you played through it the first time. I think that's something that was a little bit like nitpicky for me, is having to go back to levels that I beat at the beginning of the game every time I unlocked a new ability.
Yeah, same here, because like especially that one ability that you mentioned in particular, I didn't get that until like Act 3. So having to remember every single one of the times that I came across one of those structures I couldn't break, I was like, oh wow, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I remember the first time I came across them, I because when you attack them, they kind of like move a little bit, and like you're like, you can get past it somehow, but it's not introduced yet. And I remember spending hours trying to find a way around it or through it, and just wasting time. Either I didn't have the ability yet, but I was like, there has to be some way over there. I see, the glowing light for the items. Like, I see something over there. I know I can get there. And then you don't even have that ability yet. I think it would have been nice to have like either those kinds of structures only in the later portion of the game, or to have some kind of notification like, hey, come back later. You don't have this yet, or something like that.
Yeah. If there was just some kind of indicator or something I could put on the screen to track things like that, that would be great. Or even like places where I've come across merchants, because I know, like we mentioned before, I would always try to buy every merchant out. But sometimes I wouldn't have enough chroma to do that, so I'd have to mentally keep track. And so things like that. Anytime in a game where I have to mentally keep track of anything, I'm like, okay, the game could have given me something to track that.
And realistically, just map markers could have fixed that.
Yeah.
Could have been a pretty quality of life thing to just add as just map markers, or a map in general.
Speaking of the map, there are no maps to these levels. I guess that's a gripe, because you can pull up the map whenever you want when you're on the hub world, but when you go into these individual levels, they are labyrinthian as fuck. These levels are really easy to get lost in. Some of these corridors do look very samey, and it's kind of hard to tell what's the intended path and what's a side path. And without a map, it would made it all the more difficult to traverse those, which makes the game a little bit more difficult, and maybe they did want players to kind of get lost in it. But other times it would be kind of frustrating because I'd miss out on whole sections of a level that I wasn't aware existed.
Yeah, or there would be times where you'd get to a fork in the road, left path, right path. You go one way, and then that same path also forks later down that same path.
Yeah.
And so you get to a point, further into the level where you forget all that you didn't go and explore yet.
Yes.
And then you have to go back, get lost again, and without the map, it makes it really hard to do that. And I agree that I would have preferred a map, but then you also have other gamers who like that kind of challenge and immersion, and who say it's better off without. I think it really just comes down to subjectivity.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'm glad that this game didn't do was yellow paint.
I think there was on the handrails on the cliffs. I think they are yellow, right?
No, you're right. That is yellow paint. But at least those, there's like an in-universe
but in
explanation.
Their defense, it's still hard to see some of those. There's a lot of them that I missed, even with the yellow paint on those. So it wasn't overly done. But in general, throughout the game, there wasn't arrows pointing which way to go, which I thought was nice. It gives you the ability to choose your own path and stuff like that. So not too much hand holding, just a little bit on those cliffhangers.
Yeah, and not everything that was climbable was showed to you. You kind of had to actually use your eyes. And I appreciate games that don't insult your intelligence like that.
I think a lot of the times too early in the game, especially because in the very first level, you're shown those where you can climb up through the hand mounts. And so I'm thinking when I'm playing through, okay, that's how you climb up. So if I don't see those, then I don't need to go up. But then you have other levels where you have to grapple if you're going to go up. And if you don't look up, you're not going to see those grapple points.
Yeah, your controller will vibrate, but you don't ever know exactly where it is. Persona 5 does a similar thing.
I always have my vibration turned off, so I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. The vibration is usually the indicator for me that there's a grapple point.
Really? Okay. Look at that. Over a year and I'm still learning something here.
Yeah. No, there's so many dimensions of this game. There's so many parts of this game that I haven't even explored yet. And I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to dive even deeper because like I mentioned, I've only played through the story once and I haven't 100%ed it. And I still have yet to complete my second run through of the game. But by the time we do part 2, I will, and we'll have a lot more thoughts on the story and the characters. Zachary was supposed to join us this episode, but he ended up having a scheduling conflict. But 100% we won't do part 2 without him because I know he really wants to talk about this game.
And there's so much to talk about with the story.
There's still so much more. But for now, here's what I will say. Okay, I knew coming into this that people were going to read this and be like, okay, great. Another podcast glazing Expedition 33. Didn't we get enough of that last year? But I'll tell you what, this game deserves every bit of the glaze it gets. I'm not going to say that they couldn't have handed out some awards to other games to kind of spread the love, but at the same time, when I sit back and think about games I played in 2025, I was like, no, this game did have the best soundtrack. No, this game did have the best performances. This game did have the best story.
It did. And so every category that it was nominated for and won, it did deserve it. Yeah. I mean, there are other games that could have been deserving too, spread the wealth, like you said, but looking back at it, it didn't win anything that it shouldn't have.
Besides, I would say maybe like best indie game, I would have given that to like Hollow Knight, for instance, just because that was the favorite indie game of this year. And this game, I think, while it started out as an independent production, by its end, it really wasn't. This is kind of more of a AA production.
That's a fair argument.
But, even so, it's like it is still impressive. And I think that's why this game is getting as much buzz as it is because of a game to be this high caliber and this high quality and just so compelling and so engaging and just top notch in almost every category. And to not come from a AAA developer, to come from what was originally a small studio is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is. And it really set the bar for what the smaller studios should be capable of. Because a lot of people have this misconception that if you want a high quality game, it has to come from a AAA studio. And that's proven to be untrue at this point.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, just looking at this, it really is a technical achievement. Here we are in 2025, 2026, and we didn't think that games could look better. But I think what's really going to make games stand out moving forward is going to be art direction. because we've gotten to the point where visual fidelity is just so high now that like games from 10 years ago still look almost photorealistic. But to have to continually push that bar to keep a steady performance, I noticed this game runs pretty well, especially post patches and all that. But even at launch, I didn't notice too many stutters or issues. But on top of that, like I mentioned, the art direction, just having something to really make us ogle. That's something I recently said about Ghost of Yote. It's like, how do we push the bar in graphics? Just eye candy. That's all. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, we've reached a point where pretty much any game that comes out now that's worth a shit has good graphics. That can't be the bar anymore. It can't just say, "Oh, well, come play our game. We have great graphics. Look at the trees. Look at the backgrounds." That doesn't matter because it's everywhere now. You have to have the art direction. It has to be something that's different. Maybe different's not the right word. It doesn't have to be different, but it has to be something that's captivating, immersive, or the game's not going to do well.
Yeah. So you have the art direction, but you also have the performances, and that's really going to make those character models stand out and shine.
And like you said at the beginning of this episode, the voice performances were amazing.
Yeah.
Outstanding voice performances from everyone involved. I don't think there really was a character that I didn't like the voice performance on.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any point where I was like, okay, this is a weak part of this game. Everyone did an outstanding job on the voice cast.
Seriously, everybody brought their A game on this. And yeah, I'm really excited to get into some of our favorite characters and moments from the game in part 2.
Yeah, I'm really excited for part 2 because that's really where a lot of the discussion happens is, the different characters, different story elements. And and I'm sure we're going to get into it, but the debate about the endings too.
Yes, definitely. But all right, guys, stay tuned for part 2. We'll have that out later this month, hopefully. But also stay tuned for game launch reviews of Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight and 007 First Light. I definitely want to cover that this month. We do have a collab episode out with Collateral Cinema covering the Super Mario Galaxy movie and Mortal Kombat 2. So go check that out. Also check out our At the Movies review on The Backrooms, which should be out soon, if not already. We're putting together our postseason content for both Collateral Cinema and Gaming, as well as our next seasons. So there's really a lot to look forward to coming forward. Also check out Collateral Let's Play. We are on YouTube. You can find us on both the Collateral Cinema and Collateral Gaming YouTube channels. We are doing Phoenix Wright Wednesdays, where we're playing through Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. We're just about to start Turnabout Goodbyes. And then on Mondays, we do Metroid Mondays. I'm playing through Metroid Prime Remastered right now. And Shooter Saturday, we do have an episode out on Heretic plus Hexen. I think we're going to do Power Slave next, and then maybe jump back to something modern like COD or Battlefield. We'll continue doing more games for Shooter Saturday and more Let's Plays in general, just when new shit comes out or games that I'm playing for the podcast. Also, if you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon where you can get access to exclusive Let's Plays. But we do also have a Buy Me a Coffee and a merch store on Dashery, and links to that in the show notes. And we're also partnered with W Energy. You can use the promo code CGamingPod to get 10% off your first order. And I do recommend the product. It's been pretty good. Otherwise, we are wherever you get your podcasts. Help us rise up the ranks on Good Pods. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or feedback on your platform of choice. And we're also on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, etc. But I think that's going to be just about it for now. Did you have anything to add, Michael?
No, thanks for having me, Ashley.
Yeah, no problem, man. And we'll see you guys in part 2.
Sounds good.
With all that being said, I've been Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Michael Toscano.
This was Collateral Gaming. We are out.
Clair, obscur, trouble de rature, trouveras effet. Clair, obscur, guardé aux peintures, trouvera sans elle. par les hauts pins, tu le trouveras sans elle. Clair, obscur, trouble de rature, courbera et fer. Clair, obscur, par les hauts pins, tu le trouveras sans elle.
Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.